I've been going to the same coffee shop near my apartment for about 3 years. It's one of those independent places with mismatched furniture and local art on the walls. I work remotely, so most mornings I'd go in around 8, order a large black coffee, and sit at the same corner table with my laptop for 2 or 3 hours. I liked the routine. The baristas knew my order, the Wi-Fi was solid, nobody bothered me. It was my spot. About a year ago, I started noticing a woman who came in around the same time as me. She looked to be in her mid-30s, dark hair pulled back, always wearing these oversized sweaters no matter what the weather was. She would order a tea, sit at a table across the room, and read a book or scroll through her phone. We never spoke, not once. I didn't even think about her beyond just recognizing her as another regular. That's how coffee shops work. You see the same people every day and you don't think anything of it. The first thing that made me pay attention was when I caught her looking at me. Not a quick glance. She was staring. I happened to look up from my laptop and her eyes were locked directly on me. When she realized, I noticed she looked down at her book immediately. It was the speed of it that felt off. Like she had been watching me for a while and got caught. I brushed it off. People space out. Maybe she was just zoning out in my direction. It happens. But then it kept happening. Every time I looked up, she was looking at me, and every time our eyes met, she would snap her head down or turn away. After about a week of this, I started feeling self-conscious. I checked my reflection in my phone screen. I looked at my shirt to make sure nothing was on it. I couldn't figure out why she kept staring. One morning, I decided to sit at a different table just to test something. I sat on the opposite side of the room near the window. She came in at her usual time, got her tea, and instead of sitting where she normally sat, she sat at the table closest to my new spot. That made my stomach tighten. A few days later, she spoke to me for the first time. I was packing up my laptop and she walked over and asked if I knew the Wi-Fi password. I told her it was on the board behind the counter. She laughed and said she couldn't read it from where she was sitting. It was a weird interaction because the password was written in huge letters on a chalkboard that was clearly visible from every seat in the shop. I told her the password and she thanked me and walked away, but something about the way she lingered felt deliberate. Like the Wi-Fi question was just a reason to talk to me. After that, she started saying hi to me every morning. Just a quick hi or a wave. I would nod back because I'm not going to be rude, but I didn't engage beyond that. I wasn't interested in conversation. I was there to work. She started sitting closer and closer. First one table away, then the table right next to mine. One morning, she sat down at my table, my actual table. She just pulled out the chair across from me and sat down with her tea like we had planned to meet. I had my headphones in and was mid-email. I took one earbud out and she said something like, "I hope you don't mind, it's so crowded today." The shop had maybe 4 other people in it. It was not crowded. I didn't want to make a scene, so I said it was fine and put my earbud back in. She sat there for about 40 minutes. I could see her looking at me over her book the entire time, not reading, just holding the book and watching me. When I packed up to leave, she asked where I was going. I said I had a meeting. She asked if I'd be back tomorrow. I said probably. She smiled in a way that felt possessive, like my answer confirmed something for her. If any of this sounds familiar, drop a comment. You'd be shocked how common this kind of thing is. Now it gets worse. I started noticing her outside the coffee shop. The first time was at the grocery store near my apartment. I was in the cereal aisle and I looked up and she was at the end of the aisle with a cart. She wasn't looking at me that time, but the store was 10 minutes from the coffee shop in the opposite direction. It could have been a coincidence. The second time was at a gas station about a mile from my apartment. She was sitting in her car, not pumping gas, just sitting there. When I pulled away, she pulled out right after me and followed me for about 3 blocks before turning off. Then she showed up at my apartment building. I was walking in one evening and she was standing outside the front entrance. She wasn't buzzing anyone, just standing there. When she saw me, she smiled and said, "Oh hey," like it was the most natural thing in the world. I asked what she was doing there and she said she was visiting a friend in the building. I went inside without holding the door for her. When I got to my apartment, I looked out the window. She was still standing outside, looking up at the building. She stayed for about 15 minutes and then walked to her car and drove away. The next morning, I didn't go to the coffee shop. I worked from home for 3 days. When I went back on the 4th day, the barista told me she had come in and asked about me by name. I had never told her my name. The barista assumed we were friends and told her I hadn't been in. I felt my face go hot. I told him we were not friends and to not give anyone information about me. He looked confused but agreed. That night, I got 7 follow requests on Instagram from different accounts, all private, no posts, no profile pictures, random usernames. I blocked everyone. Then I got a text from an unknown number. It said, "I just want to be your friend." I screenshot it and blocked the number. Over the next 3 days, I got 11 more texts from different numbers. Some of them were casual, like "How was your day?" Others were longer. One of them described what I had been wearing at the coffee shop the last time I went. Another one said she knew I was avoiding her and that I didn't have to be scared. The word "scared" made something click in my brain. This wasn't a lonely person being awkward. This was someone who was fully aware of what they were doing and was choosing to keep doing it anyway. I filed a report with the police the next morning. I brought screenshots of every text, every follow request, and a written timeline of every encounter. The officer was honest. Without a direct threat, there wasn't much they could do. He told me to document everything and call immediately if it escalated. He used the word escalated like it was inevitable, like even he knew this wasn't going to stop on its own. I haven't been back to that coffee shop since. I found a new place to work across town. I changed my gym. I started varying my schedule so there was no pattern for anyone to follow. I check my mirrors constantly when I'm driving. I take different routes home. I've stopped posting anything on social media that shows where I am. It's been 4 months and I haven't seen her, but I also haven't stopped looking over my shoulder. Every woman in an oversized sweater makes my heart rate spike for a second. Every notification on my phone makes me brace for another unknown number. The worst part isn't what she did, it's that I still don't know who she actually is. I don't know her real name, I don't know where she lives, I don't know how she found my building or my name or my phone number, and I don't know if she stopped because she lost interest or because she's just waiting.
I started a new job at an accounting firm about 2 years ago. It was a decent office job, and I was excited to finally be somewhere stable after bouncing around temp positions for most of my 20s. On my second day, a guy from IT named Patrick came to set up my computer. He was maybe 32. Average height, thin build, wire-framed glasses. He had this very precise way of speaking, like he was choosing every word carefully. He was polite and professional, and I didn't think anything of it. Over the next few weeks, Patrick started showing up at my desk more than necessary. At first it was work-related, then the visits got longer. He would lean against my cubicle wall and talk about random things, movies, restaurants, podcasts. I was friendly because he was a coworker and I didn't want to be rude, but I noticed he only did this with me. He didn't stop by anyone else's desk. Then the compliments started. He said he liked my jacket one day. Fine. He told me my hair looked nice. Okay. Then he told me I had a really calming voice and that he could listen to me talk all day. That one made me uncomfortable. I said thanks and turned back to my monitor. He stood there for another 30 seconds before walking away. After that, his visits became less about chatting and more about just being near me. He would come to my desk and not say anything. He'd just stand there looking at my screen like he was reading over my shoulder. I'd ask if he needed something and he'd say no, just checking in. One afternoon I was eating lunch alone in the break room and he walked in and sat directly across from me. There were 8 other empty chairs. He didn't have food. He didn't have a drink. He just sat there and watched me eat. I asked what he was doing and he said he just wanted some company. The look in his eyes was this fixed, unblinking stare like he was studying me. I started eating lunch in my car after that. Patrick noticed. He asked why I stopped eating in the break room. I told him I needed alone time. He nodded slowly and said he understood and that everyone needs space sometimes. The way he emphasized sometimes made it sound like he was giving me permission that had an expiration date. About a month later, I was leaving work at 5:30 and noticed Patrick's car was parked directly next to mine. His car had been in a completely different section that morning. I know because I walked past it. He had moved it during the day to be right next to mine. I asked building management for a different parking spot. They moved me to a different level. 2 days later, his car was next to mine again. Then it happened outside of work. I was at a Target on a Saturday afternoon about 20 minutes from the office. I was in the cleaning supply aisle, looking at laundry detergent when I turned a corner and there he was, standing at the other end of the aisle, holding a basket. When he saw me, he smiled and said, "What a coincidence." My entire body went cold. This wasn't a store near the office. It wasn't on the way to anything. There was no reason for him to be there at the same time as me unless he had followed me. I smiled weakly and said, "Yeah, that's crazy." Then I walked past him and left the store immediately. I abandoned my entire cart in the aisle. I sat in my car with the doors locked watching the entrance. He walked out about 10 minutes later. He wasn't carrying any bags. He looked around the parking lot for a few seconds before walking to his car. He hadn't bought a single thing. I went to HR first thing Monday morning. I sat down and told the HR woman everything, every single incident from the beginning, the desk visits, the staring in the break room, the parking, the Target. I tried to stay calm, but my voice was shaking by the end of it. She took detailed notes and told me she would talk to Patrick. She said they couldn't do anything about the Target since it happened off company property, but they could address the workplace behavior. She assured me it would be handled confidentially. 2 days later, Patrick stopped coming to my desk. He stopped talking to me entirely. He wouldn't even look at me in the hallway. When we passed each other, he kept his eyes straight ahead like I didn't exist. Part of me felt relief. The other part felt pure dread, because the silence didn't feel like acceptance. It felt like anger, like he was punishing me for going to HR. A week later, I found a note under my windshield wiper, handwritten on white paper. It said I thought we were friends. No name, no signature, but I knew the handwriting from IT work orders. I brought it to HR. They escalated it. Patrick denied everything. 3 days later, he resigned. No notice. He just left. I thought it was over. 2 weeks after he left, I got a physical letter in my home mailbox. Typed, not handwritten. It said he was sorry for making me uncomfortable, and that he just really liked me and didn't know how to show it. The letter was 2 pages long. It described things about my daily routine that he should not have known. What time I left for work. What gym I went to. What car my boyfriend drove. Things you would only know if you were watching someone for a long time. I took the letter to the police. They contacted Patrick and issued a formal warning. I got a protective order. He never contacted me again, but I still check my mailbox every day with my heart in my throat, and I still look over my shoulder in every parking garage I walk through. Some people don't understand that you don't have to be physically attacked for something to feel violent. The constant watching, the showing up, the note, the letter, all of it was violence. It just didn't leave bruises.
I bought my first house. 3 years ago. Small, 3-bedroom in a quiet neighborhood in Michigan. The kind of street where people wave at each other and leave their garage doors open. When I moved in, the guy next door came over with a six-pack and introduced himself. His name was Carl, mid-50s, retired, lived alone. He told me about trash day and which restaurants in town were good and where to get my lawnmower serviced. I appreciated it. Moving somewhere new is disorienting, and having a friendly neighbor makes it easier. For the first few months, everything was normal. Carl would wave when he was getting the mail. We'd talk across the fence sometimes. He told me about his ex-wife and his grown kids who lived out of state. He talked a lot, but I figured he was just lonely. A retired guy living alone in a house that used to have a family in it. I felt bad for him, so I didn't mind when conversations ran long. The first thing that felt weird was when he started commenting on my schedule. He'd say things like, "You got home late last night," or "I noticed you left early this morning." At first I laughed it off. Neighbors notice things. But then the comments got more specific. He said, "I saw your girl's car was here pretty late on Friday." He told me my kitchen light was on at 3 in the morning and asked if everything was okay. He asked why I ordered so many packages. These weren't casual observations anymore. He was tracking me. I started paying attention and noticed he spent an unusual amount of time in his yard, not doing work, just sitting. He had a chair on his porch that faced directly at my driveway and front windows. He would sit there for hours. If I pulled in, he was out there. If my girlfriend came over, he was out there. If a delivery truck came, he would walk to the edge of his yard and watch. One evening, my girlfriend and I were watching TV, and I noticed the blinds on one of Carl's upstairs windows move. I pointed it out to her, and she said I was being paranoid, but I kept watching and the blinds moved again. Someone was standing at that window looking into our house. I confronted him one Saturday morning. He answered with a big smile. I told him I felt like he was paying too much attention to my routine and I'd appreciate some privacy. His smile didn't change. He said he was just being neighborly and that people around here look out for each other. Then he said, "You should be glad someone's watching." Most people don't have that. The way he said it made it sound like a threat dressed up as a favor. After that, things got worse. He stopped being friendly. No more waves, no more small talk. But the watching intensified. His porch light, which used to turn off at 9, started staying on all night, pointed directly at my driveway. A new floodlight appeared on the side of his house, aimed at my backyard. I could see it from my bedroom window. It lit up my yard like a prison spotlight. I asked him about it, and he said it was for security. When I asked why it was aimed at my property, he said, "Light goes where it goes." Then things started happening to my property. My trash cans were moved from where I left them. My garden hose was uncoiled and stretched across the yard one morning. A lawn ornament my girlfriend bought was turned around to face the house instead of the street. My mailbox flag was up even though I hadn't put any mail out. One morning I found my welcome mat flipped upside down. Another time, the cushions on my patio chairs had been rearranged. None of it was criminal, none of it was provable, but all of it was deliberate. Every single incident was small enough to deny, but specific enough to send a message. He wanted me to know he could touch my things whenever he wanted. I installed cameras, ring cameras on the front porch, the back door, and one pointing at the driveway. The first night I had them running, I caught Carl at 2 in the morning walking along the property line. He didn't cross onto my property. He walked right along the edge, slowly, hands in his pockets, head turned toward my house the entire time. He did this for 11 minutes. I timed it. Then he went back inside. I showed my girlfriend the footage, and she finally understood what I had been dealing with. She stopped calling it paranoia after that. The breaking point came on a Wednesday night. I was in bed already half asleep when my phone buzzed with a motion alert from the backyard camera. I opened the app and the image made my blood run cold. Carl was standing in my backyard, not on the property line, in my yard, about 10 feet from my back door. He was standing completely still, holding something in his hand. The camera was infrared, so the image was grainy green and white, but I could see him clearly. He was facing my back door, not moving, just standing there like he was deciding whether to knock or try the handle. I grabbed a bat from my closet and went downstairs as quietly as I could. I flipped on the porch light and opened the door. He was gone, but sitting on my back step was a small ceramic figurine of a man. It was positioned facing my back door, like it was watching the house on his behalf. I called the police and showed them the footage. They went to talk to Carl. He told them he was sleepwalking. The officer told me there wasn't much they could do unless he made a direct threat or caused property damage. I asked about trespassing, and he said it would be hard to prove intent from one incident. One incident, the man had been watching me for over a year, walking the property line at 2 a.m., aiming floodlights at my house, moving my things, standing in my backyard holding a figurine. And all of that amounted to one incident because I only had one night of him technically on my property on camera. I got a lawyer the next day, filed for a restraining order. Carl fought it initially. He showed up to the hearing looking like a sad old man. He told the judge he was just trying to be a good neighbor and that he had trouble sleeping because of medication. The judge looked at the camera footage and the photos and the log I had kept of every comment and every incident over the past year. He granted the order. Carl wasn't allowed within 100 feet of me or my property, which meant he basically couldn't use his own front yard or driveway without violating it. Within 2 months, he sold his house and moved. I don't know where he went. I didn't ask. The new neighbors are a young couple with a dog. They wave when they see me and mind their own business. Carl's house has new paint and a new fence and looks nothing like it did when he lived there. But I still check the cameras every night before bed. I still look at his old upstairs window, sometimes expecting to see the blinds move. My girlfriend caught me doing it once, and she just squeezed my hand and didn't say anything. And every time I hear a noise in my backyard after dark, my first thought is always the same. He's back? I know he's not. But that thought is automatic now. It lives in my brain like a reflex. And I don't think it's ever going away. Those were 3 true stories about people who became the target of someone else's obsession. If you made it this far, drop a comment and tell me which story creeped you out the most. If you've ever dealt with a stalker or someone who wouldn't take the hint, leave your story in the comments below. The best ones get featured in a future video. Hit subscribe if you haven't already. New stories every week. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. And pay attention to the people around you. Sometimes the most dangerous person in your life is the one who seems the friendliest.